Myanmar. She has been engaged in the research on educational technology as well as English literature, applied linguistics, and English language teaching since 1993. She has accomplished over 20 research projects in the field of ELT. Her ideas have been published with more than 30 academic papers nationally and over 40 internationally. She enjoys her works collaborating with many research teams in various universities and contributing her work as academic supervisor of national and international masters and Ph.D. program. External examiner, editorial board, member of international research journals, peer reviewer of international research journals, section chair, invited speaker, invited commentator, and featured speaker. Now, may I give this session to our speaker? Please welcome. Okay.
So, very good morning, Associate Professor Dr. Ekrapon Ni Ni Hlaing, Dean of Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, Dr. Rajabhat Entanu, and my dear PhD scholars, ladies and gentlemen. So let me briefly introduce myself. So I am Professor Ni Ni Hlaing from Myanmar, and I am delighted to be here today to talk about contribution of linguistics to ELT, how and why. To the second batch of PhD and ELT program, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences of Buriram Rajabhat University, Thailand. Firstly, let me introduce a little bit of my background literature. So for many years, it has been argued that linguistics is necessary for language teaching. So some scholars agree that linguistics should be taught as it has advantages such as guiding language teaching and providing command of language. So on the other hand, others are the opinion that linguistics is a theoretical area, and what is needed in language teaching is practical use of language, as the new humanistic approach has focused on the communicative aim of language teaching. So despite the controversies, linguistics is taught at all the English language teaching departments of universities. Hence, English language teachers learn about not only the theory of pedagogy, in other words, how to teach, but also the content, which means what you know about your field in order to train teachers, being proficient in their fields and knowing the best ways of transferring their knowledge to the students. So English language teaching departments curriculum involving linguistics aims at gaining linguistic knowledge to English language teachers. So the teachers who are aware of their linguistic knowledge and use it while teaching English are expected to be more successful in teaching English. So my lecture concentrates on the contributions of linguistics to language teaching by presenting three different parts about the contributions of linguistics to language teaching in part 1. And the second one is the role of linguistics in the teaching of English in part 2, and discussion on necessity of linguistic knowledge for being a good teacher and of teaching linguistics at universities in part 3. So let me first deal with part 1, the contribution of linguistics to language teaching. Today, where communication becomes very important, knowing one or more than one language and knowing and understanding different cultures has been an indispensable need. So as a result of this need, foreign language teaching has been a popular field all over the world. So in order to satisfy this need, English is taught at all levels of education. So firstly, let me discuss a little bit of the qualities of a good foreign language teacher. So foreign language teachers need to have some qualities in order to teach effectively. These qualities are defined differently by different scholars. However, knowledge of subject matter is the common feature in these definitions. For example, Patent 1997 lists the qualities of good foreign language teachers as a high level of language proficiency in all of the modalities of the target language, speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And the second point, the ability to use the language in real life context for both social and professional purposes. And point 3, the ability to comprehend contemporary media in the foreign language, both oral and written, and interact successfully with native speakers. And point 4, a strong background in the liberal arts and the content areas. And point 5, understanding of the social, political, historical, and economic realities of the regions where the language they teach is spoken. And point 6, pedagogical knowledge and skills, including knowledge about human growth and development, learning theories and second language acquisition theories, and a repertoire of strategies for developing proficiency and cultural understanding in all students. And the last point, knowledge of the various technologies and how to integrate them into their instruction. So Cross 1995 states that an ideal teacher has 4 basic qualities. These are: the first quality, teachers should be well educated. And the second quality, teachers should have subject competence. And the third one, teachers should have professional competence. And the last point, a teacher affects his students with his positive attitudes, opinions, and manners. So Lima 2007 also emphasizes that many foreign language teacher training programs over the world includes methodological educational content, linguistic content, and literature content. Also, Day and Coughlin 1992 think about that. The knowledge base of second language teacher education consists of 4 types of knowledge. The first one is content knowledge. That is, knowledge of the subject matters, what ESL or EFL teachers teach. For example, English language as represented by courses in syntax, semantics, phonology, and pragmatics, and literary and cultural aspects of the English language. And the second point is pedagogical knowledge. That is the knowledge of generic teaching strategies, beliefs, and practices, regardless of the focus of the subject matter, that is how we teach. For example, classroom management, motivation, and decision making. And the third point is very important. It is pedagogic content knowledge. So it was the specialized knowledge of how to represent content knowledge in diverse ways that students can understand. And it was also the knowledge of how students come to understand the subject matter, what difficulties they are likely to encounter when learning it, and what misconceptions interfere with learning, and how to overcome these problems. So it means how we teach ESL, EFL in general, or how we teach ESL, EFL reading or writing in particular. For example, teaching ESL, EFL skills, reading or writing, teaching English grammar. So the last point is support knowledge. It is also very important. It was the knowledge of the various disciplines that inform our approach to the teaching and learning of English. For example, psycholinguistics, sociolinguistics, second language acquisition, and many language-related research methods. So secondly, I'd like to deal with how does linguistics contribute to language teaching. Many scholars agree that subject matter knowledge is an important requirement for being a good teacher. BRU 2005 states that teachers are subject area specialists and they must have an in-depth knowledge of their specific specialization. So teachers should know about the language well to transfer their knowledge to the students effectively. And one cannot teach what he does not know. So it is clear that linguistics contributes language teaching, but how and in which ways it has contributions. The linguist Hudson 2010 states that new elements that have been imported from linguistics all share one or more of the following characteristics, which the teaching and research that can be found in any university linguistics department, and these are: students learn to study language rather than to change their language. Students acquire knowledge about language rather than just knowledge of it. And students learn to apply general ideas about language in investigation and observation. And students learn a meta language for talking about language structure and language use. And students learn to compare languages. And students study all kinds of spoken and written language, and not just the language of literature. Regarding it, Widdowson, 1979, emphasized the need of linguistics in language teaching, stating that linguistics requires mediation of an interpreter for its own presentation or potential usefulness to the language teachers to be realized. So linguistic knowledge makes teachers self-confident in the process of teaching, as they are expert in their subject matter. So the process of any foreign language teaching includes selection, grading, and presentation as the major steps. So linguistics plays an important role in the whole process of teaching. So teachers can get the description of the language that is taught and evaluate the place of each component is in the sum total of what is being taught. Secondly, and specifically in the area of grading, thanks to linguistics, reminding us that the items that are subdivided into units of teaching time belong to 4 different scales: understanding speech, understanding comprehensively, reading, and writing. And moreover, according to Halliday 1999, language appears in 3 forms in schooling. The first form is learning language, that is first language or second language development. And the second form is learning through language, that is to study content matter. And the third form is learning about language, that is called meta language. So for English teachers, a meta language for talking about how knowledge is constructed in language in their subject is a prerequisite for making the link between the content and the language through which it is constructed. Also, Fillmore and Snow 2000 trying to find the answer of the question, what teachers need to know about language. So in their study titled same as the question, they addressed the challenges that teachers face, such as the increase of English language learners numbers. And the second point, vernacular dialect speakers and students from different cultural backgrounds. And they conclude that if teachers know more about language, they meet these challenges more effectively. So teachers that are expert in their subject matter are more successful in coping with linguistic and learning problems of their students. For example, the study of phonology could begin with an examination of interference problems that English language learners might have with the English sound system. So another challenge that teachers face is the student with SLC, speech language communication difficulty. So in such a problem, teachers who work with therapists to adapt students to the classroom. And teachers with linguistic background help students handle with phonological, lexical, morphological, and synthetic problems. So, and also preparing specific learning activities, and also adjusting the difficulty of the activities and tasks are teachers' specific duties for those students. Linguistic knowledge is essential, especially in the classroom where students come from different regions with different language backgrounds. So to specify students' different linguistic backgrounds and satisfy their linguistic needs, teachers should be informed about sociolinguistics. So linguistics can provide teachers with a valuable cross-language perspectives. So on the other hand, Lee 2005 argues that teachers need to know students' communicative resources and background, and they have to examine the differences and similarities between cultural assumptions in multilingual and multicultural classes to get them acquire the language, and teacher can succeed this with the help of pragmatic language. Hlaing 2005, who deals with the application of corpus linguistics in classroom, concludes that corpus linguistics provides teachers not only with important evidence for the state of language, but with exhaustless authentic materials for teachers to constructing language learning tasks. Furthermore, teachers who have linguistic and pedagogical knowledge can develop materials for different populations, and they can also train other teachers, and they can design assessments, and they can find effective ways to teach language-related topics in specific communities, or use the language of a community effectively in instruction. So besides, students benefit from the teacher's knowledge of language structure and ability to make certain aspects of language especially clear. So hence, a teacher should be very proficient in the relevant language. Lado, 1964, discussed that the relevance of linguistic information and training for the language teacher should be self-evident from the fact that linguistics provide description of the sounds, words, and sentences he must teach, and helps him to understand the linguistic problems of his students. So it is necessary to address applied linguistics when talking about the relation between linguistics and language teaching, because as Kremesh 2000 states that applied linguistics can be a bridge between recent theory in literary and cultural studies and foreign language teaching programs. So it is a subfield of linguistics, yet it has more practical issues related to language learning, and language acquisition than linguistics. Schmidt and Sally Marcia 2002 defines that applied linguistics is using what we know about a language and how it is learned and how it is used in order to achieve some purposes or to solve some problems in the real world. So Dawson 2000 defines applied linguistics as the application of the teachings of descriptions of a language in a pedagogical context, and states its contributions to language teaching. According to my experience, applied linguistics is the application of linguistics, linguistic findings, and theory to language teaching. So from this definition, it can be referred to that applied linguistics is identical to language teaching. So moreover, there is a tight connection between language teaching and applied linguistics. So it has been proposed that developments and current discussions in linguistics, second language acquisition research, and psychology show that applied linguistics research contributes a lot to language teaching and learning. Translation and interpretation, relation between theory and practice, lexicology and glossography, language policy are the other fields that applied linguistics study on. So these areas are related somewhat language teaching, and improves it. Hence, applied linguistics facilitates language learning by introducing the real world of English language to learners. Besides, it helps the language teachers making pedagogical decisions. Although it is generally accepted idea that linguistics contributes to language teaching, the number of people who have opinion of that linguistic knowledge is not indispensable for language education cannot be underestimated. The idea that practical knowledge is more necessary than theory reduces linguistics' importance. Johnson and Goethe 2000 states that it is the teaching that is most important, not the language. That language teaching is first and foremost in educational enterprise, not a linguistic one. Similarly, Freeman and Johnson, 1998, have called for a reconceptualization of the knowledge base in language teacher education in such a way that teachers focus somewhat less on theory and more on the activity of teaching itself, also paying more attention to social context and pedagogical processes of teaching. Regarding these points, according to Stevens 1992, it is possible to be an extraordinary teacher without knowing anything about linguistics and applied linguistics. So he states that many changes that take place in methodology belong to the teachers that do not have applied linguistic knowledge. This notion blocks linguistics courses in universities finding place that they deserve. So a study of Goverhen, Neva, and Shuri 1999, whose aim is to specify core courses in TESOL MA programs in US universities, shows that most programs mandate linguistics. So in conclusion, for my part one of the presentation, linguistics, the study of language, is necessary for English language teaching. Although it is not seen as the most important part of language teaching, its contributions to language teaching cannot be ignored. So even the scholars agree that linguistics is not a must for language teaching. Do not remove completely the linguistics from the language teaching, as it brings teachers in better knowledge of language, accordingly better transfer of knowledge, and enables teachers to make decisions about teaching process and satisfy the students' need related to language. So students are curious about not only the subject, they are learning about the language overall. So they do not want to memorize the language rules. They want to learn the reasons behind the rules and make sense of these rules. So it is the linguistic knowledge that will help teachers fulfill the expectations of the learners. Now, let me continue my part two of the presentation, that is the role of linguistics in the teaching of English. Related to the second topic, one may come to wonder or at least to think that everyone seems to believe linguistics has much to say about language teaching, especially teaching English as a second language or foreign language. One then may think it is justifiable for many people, either linguists or experienced English teachers, strongly argue that linguistics should have something to do with language teaching, while others seem to differ on that issue. So we think that language teachers can get some advantages from the description made by the linguists about language teachers, that linguists never intend to address themselves to the problems of teaching a language, since the task of linguists is simply concerned with observing, studying, and trying to formulate the rules or description of how people actually speak. Now, how about English teachers? So English teachers, should they go along in the same idea to such possible ways to profitably relate it to the problems found in the teaching? Teachers should not study a science simply without any particular and justifiable reasons for the sake of it, but they should attempt to achieve as much profit as possible from it. So, for instance, English teachers who study chemistry are not solely for the sake of chemistry or his or her knowledge on that field, but rather try to get possible benefit from it and to solve his or her problems. So with this concept, let us now discuss some possible contribution of linguistics to the teaching of English. Actually, knowledge of linguistics will be more useful for English teachers to find a suitable method in teaching it. So the first idea I like to deal with today is general views of linguistics. Linguistics is as a broad term with various kinds of views. So in this part of my talk, I am going to present some approaches in general, namely traditional grammar, descriptive linguistics, American structural linguistics, generative transformational grammar. So actually, teachers of English should know and understand these all approaches. By knowing them, a teacher can improve his or her capability to teach and to find a suitable way in solving teaching problems. Firstly, traditional grammar and American linguistics are used as linguistics theories, predicting the role of linguistics in the teaching of English in our universities. These two theories have largely applied in the development of the teaching English as a foreign language. Further, we may also see the role played by the work of rationalists in language teaching. Sorry. The second point I might discuss is about the contribution of linguistics to the teaching of English. As I have mentioned in the previous slide, that These four linguistic approaches should be well understood. So now let us have a look at them. The first approach is traditional grammar. So traditional grammar, to clarify what we mean by this, involves the work of grammarians in the 16th century until about in the middle of the 18th century, but deriving from nearly 2,000 years of study, of which Aristotle, Plato, and others were originators. That is to say, this grammar is not simply dealt with formulating rules of the language. Now, let us see the principal ideas of this grammar and their contribution to the teaching of English. These grammarians consider that language is universal since the grammar of the languages are the same everywhere. So as the reflection of this concept, there appears what we call translation method, the remnants of which is still visible in our schools if we observe many teachers of English who like to use translation method. So in this case, the students are asked to translate English text or sentences into Myanmar or vice versa. Similarly, Chomsky states that not only do they make a fairly clear and well-founded distinction between deep structure and surface structure, but they also go on to study the nature of deep structure and provide valuable hints and insight concerning with the rules. So from this point of view, we may infer that traditional grammar is mentalist in itself. There are ideas about nature of meaning stemming from the scholastic debates of the Middle Ages, ideas about parts of speech, sentence structure, continuity of subject, predicate, object, and so on. So the above description with several points which can be easily understood had an undoubtful impact in the English teaching, even in our today language classrooms. So they set up a classification of 8 parts of speech, namely noun, verb, pronoun, adjective, adverb, preposition, and conjunction. So the process of analyzing sentence for them consists of giving technical terms to the position of the total meaning. So their sentence analysis is based on meaning, which has main clause and subclause. The second approach is descriptive linguistics approach. So some traditional grammarians departed from their principles to some extent. Such grammarians founded the new trend in linguistics. It was concerned with the sound of language. This period is usually called pre-Saussurian linguistics. So it is obvious that these grammarians realized that language is not only written form, but also the spoken form. It is not also universal, but differs from each other. Their description of language is, therefore, different from that of traditional grammar. They pay much attention to the sound and forms of language, but meaning is still considered. By the end of the 19th century, descriptive phonetics was incorporated by Victor to language teaching. He proposed a new approach to language teaching that was based on experiments. Children learn L1 through association of language with rewarding experiences, and L2 teaching should be as much as possible like L1 language in situation that is called the right method. The model later becomes one of the most widely known methods in teaching. So the teacher teaches to use everyday vocabulary and grammar and create a real situation or oral presentation. Now let me move to the third approach, American structural linguistics. So as we have labeled the previous one as pre-D Saussurean linguistics, therefore it can be termed as post-Saussurean. So by this labeling is meant that we take Saussure, who is usually called the father of modern linguistics. So it is worthwhile for this reason we discuss our point by reviewing briefly his work. So in 1978, Saussure published a book in which he discovered some fundamental principles. Law of Plato's hypothesizing their structural function rather than their phonetic shape. Then, in 1916, after his death, in his book, he proposed a series of dichotomies, which later are used by contemporary linguists as starting points of their linguistics theories, such as diachronic versus synchronic, and paradigmatic versus syntagmatic, and others. So he also discussed the subject matter and the scope of linguistics, either American structural linguistics or transformational grammar. So at the beginning of the 20th century, Franz Boas, an anthropologist, published his book. Resulting from that, he was inspired by the above European trends, which exerted an important view on future development of linguistics, particularly in United States. Linguistics here, however, did not show much difference from that of European until the First World War. Edward Sphere, under the influence of Boas, appeared with his book, which make a great development of particular trend as well. So these American structural linguists believe that linguistics has something to say for language teaching before the teaching of foreign language via a thorough contrastive analysis, sound, grammatical, and structural systems. The next development achieved by American structuralists was that they brought about a new view in language teaching. So they strongly propose that language is a set of habits, and they considered a language on its descriptive nature, not its prescriptive one. Furthermore, Bloomfield clearly states that his behavioristic view of language goes to refusing mentalistic theory. So if we are to relate these mentioned views to language teaching, it is quite unjustifiable to directly associate them with the path of audiolingual practices. So in my opinion, however, what we know that the audiolingual method usually used in our teaching appeared under the contribution of American structural linguistics and behavioristic psychology. Based on the above-mentioned principles, the students will estimate the sound and structures they hear, which then reinforced by approval or comprehension. So, repeated occurrences of the response and reinforcement form a habit for them. Scientific linguistics does not regard language in terms of meaning. It only regards language in terms of forms, because meaning is unmeasurable. Regarding it, learning a language is a matter of establishing the forms into a habit. And it is done by a lot of imitations and exercises that are stated by structuralists. And here in this slide, structuralists determine that language is mainly spoken form, not written form. Written language is merely representation or reflection of the spoken form. That is why they emphasize spoken form rather than written form. Spoken must be developed before they learn the written form. This is the first idea, and this is the second idea. A language is a set of habits, not rules. Structuralists consider language as human behavior. Language is a kind of human habit. Language mastery is habit establishment, and establishing a habit can be done by doing a lot of practices and exercises. So, pattern drills are the results of this consideration. This is the third point. Teach the language, not about the language. So in this case, we only teach the language. It means that we only teach the students how to use the language. The next point, language is what native speakers say, not what they ought to say. There are often many exceptions in supposed to analyze them. Just imitate what the native speakers say. We should learn the language as it is without any analysis. That is why the materials are presented in the form of dialogues and memorization. The next point, languages are different and treat them differently. Languages have their own system of sounds, words, and structures. So we should not compare one language to another. They also assume that analogy provides better information than analysis. They also emphasize quick response to language stimulus, and that error shall be eliminated in advance by careful structuring of drill and exercises. So fourthly, we should think about the generative transformational grammar approach. So this version of grammar is presented by the work of Chomsky, 1957, and Maurice Hawley, 1960, and many other linguists. So the first publication of Chomsky has been considered to transform linguistics work. In this book, Chomsky makes the description and use of language in a real situation, respectively. So these two kinds of dichotomy are not exactly the same, since Chomsky would not accept that competence can be described in terms of collective consciousness. So on the contrary, competence is seen as a set of processes possessed by the individual and developed in him as part of his development. Chomsky puts more stress on competence, for it is a systematic and stable element of language. In performance, Chomsky says that linguistic competencies are considered to motivate linguistic performance. So for the child learning a language, a linguist determines from the data of performance and the underlying system of rules that has been mastered by the speaker and that he puts to use in actual performance. So in this argumentation, he suggested that the linguistic competence is an essential element of language, and language learning is the mental process. Thus, we shall not teach simply the acceptable grammatical sentences or patterns, regardless necessity. So from this view, we have what they call modified or up-to-date grammar translation method. So far, we have dealt with some possible contributions of linguistics to the teaching of English as a foreign language. There certainly other possibilities that I'm not yet able to put forward in this lecture. This is the conclusion for my part 1 lecture. So after dealing with the topic in details, let me now draw conclusion that linguistics does provide language teachers with theories about language, how it operates, what is the essential characteristics are, how it is learned by human beings, and so forth. So in order to make this lecture easily understand, let me present a rough diagram of the development of those discussed themes in linguistics, psychology, and pedagogy to sum up this part. So based on my lecture, so all my dear PhD students, so could you please discuss regarding the basic ideas of my lectures by seeing the table and diagram in this slide. Okay, this is your turn, and please let me hear your discussion and your understanding of my lecture. So welcome. This is the brief information regarding my lecture. And there are 4 columns. And the first column is related to the linguistic approaches. And the second column goes to psychological interpretation. And the third column is regarding pedagogy used by the teachers. Okay, come on. So let me listen to you. Who will start it? These are the clues for you. Okay, come on. Who will be the volunteer?
All right, so for our participant can be a volunteer to give a discussion about this content.
The information in this table has been given for you based on my lecture. So you can have your discussion based on these points. So whatever it is, I'd like to hear from you.
Yes, teacher, let me try.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. As far as I'm concerned, traditional grammar is focused on grammar. It's a translation method. Teacher teach the students to usually focus on grammar. So it is a passive method. Students is in a passive role. They have to listen. They have to listen, and they have to wrote the grammatical rules or structures. Descriptive linguistics. I think it is a direct method. Students are able to use their target language without focusing on their native language. It is in this method, speaking and listening are emphasized. Oral method.
So what about number 3 approach?
Structural linguistics.
American structural linguistics.
American structural linguistics. Yes.
It goes to neo-behaviorism and psychology field. Yes, carry on.
It is concerned with the student psychology. Teachers need to create happy and positive environment to engage in this classroom, to focus on the studies. the last point, generative transformational grammar. Transformational grammar is a grammar. In this method, we need to focus on grammatical structure, structures and rules and language. It improves our writing skills.
Yes. What about the pedagogy for this approach?
Mentalism meant it depends on our mind.
Pedagogy or teaching method. I mean, you have to say about pedagogy or teaching method for this approach.
Grammar translation method.
Yes, grammar translation method or cognitive code planning goes to the generative transformational grammar. Thank you. Thank you for your discussion. So, any other else who wants to discuss regarding this table?
Okay, Professor, actually, I'm not feel in this kind of linguistic. I didn't get graduate from that kind of field. So can I share something for the psychology? For linguistic, I thought that it can help a teacher to design their language teaching process to motivate the student to learn language for in classroom. So the teacher can like observe their behavior in the classroom, right?
Yes. What about other approaches?
You mean the approaches?
Yes.
This is
the
kind of approach.
The second column has been written for your linguistic approaches. The first one is traditional grammar. It has been called linguistic approach.
Okay. Thank you.
So next one. Who wants to be a volunteer?
Okay, I just want to have a try. And yeah, I'm a Chinese teacher. And because I found that in our country, and for the beginning learner of English, and they just emphasize about the grammar and about the traditional grammar. And sometimes I also confused about what we should teach our students. For example, should we emphasize the importance of grammar? And also, they just pay more attention to on the vocabulary. And for me, when my students just prepare for the college English test, band 4 and about band 6, and they just, at first, they just want to maybe cite so many vocabularies, and they think that if they don't have enough vocabularies, and maybe they cannot pass the exam. And then they also emphasize about the grammar. And but as a college teacher, sometimes I found it is very difficult to maybe to explain the grammar, the sentence maybe in detail from the aspects of grammar. And I think that maybe also in some aspects, I just agree that the maybe the Chomsky is the descriptive linguistics, and I think that language is not only a written, it is also a spoken. And the most important for us to learn a foreign language is just how to use it, the usage of the language. And I don't know if my idea is right or wrong.
Right. So it's very good to discuss based on your own experience. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes. Next student who wants to be a volunteer.
Yeah. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
Yes. Let me try. Actually, so far I have learned from the presentation. The knowledge of the linguistic will be more useful for English teacher to find a suitable method in teaching, right? So, in traditional grammar, so we have to teach the grammatical rules and structure to the student. So we have to use the translation method to explain how to use the rules with how to use the rule of the language. So, and descriptive linguistic, that this is focused on how to use the language in everyday life. So focus on vocabulary and grammar that create in real situations. So we use the direct method to teach the student to use the language. And the next one, American structural linguistic. So this is focused on the spoken first and then study written form. So this approach focus on the human behavior, right? And the first one is the generative transformational grammar. This one is focused on how to well, okay. So the last approach is also focused on the use of language in the real situation as well. So the use of the cognitive code learning or grammar translation method. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Very good. And next one. Who wants to discuss
my turn.
about it?
Okay, Professor.
Yes.
For traditional grammar, I've learned that this is the way that students have to follow the teacher. Just be teacher center.
Yes.
Yes, and number two, direct method is it's kind of the same thing that the students in the class. Okay, let me think. Direct method that we call direct method because they have to follow the teacher when he or she instruct or direct any activity. For number three, oral method, that means the students have to practice the skill. It contrasts from number one, translation traditional grammar, because students have to listen to the teacher. And for number four, generative transformational grammar, this psychology part, it's the same as traditional grammar, because they have to to learn by themselves, it's going to focus on individual student, not just in the group. I think because it based on collective consciousness. If you can give more detail for me, or maybe it may be wrong. Could you please?
Not wrong. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's what I've learned from you. Thank you.
Thank you. And one more, please. Who wants to discuss? Yes, there is no one to discuss more. So this is the conclusion of my part 2 presentation. So finally, linguistics has been always developed and revised. Therefore, language teachers ought to be open-minded and keep pace with the development of this science and to bring about better results of teaching. So another important thing for an English teacher in this case is that it should not make any difference for him whether what he takes from linguistics is based on one theory or another. And I hope that this lecture will be useful for students of English in learning linguistics. And thank you. So now let me continue with part 3 of my presentation. This is a brief discussion section on necessity of linguistic knowledge for being a good teacher and teaching linguistics in universities. So firstly, let me introduce yourself by giving your background experience. So my dear PhD students, so please introduce yourself one by one. So I'd like to know your background of educational or teaching experience.
Okay, so maybe I will start first, Professor. Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Rajabhat Pandongkeo. For bachelor degree, I got from Rajabhat Institute, Suandusit. My major is Business English program. And for my master degree, I got from Ramkhamhaeng University, majoring in communicative English program. So I don't have any idea about kind of linguistic that I told you. So, okay, so, but I like to get more knowledge from professor. Okay, and for teaching experience, I had been a what they call a teacher assistant in the secondary school for 4 years in a language department. And now, yes, I also have an experience about teaching in business English program for mostly 8 years. So in kind of business field.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one.
Yes, Professor. My name's Wanchana Bunchom. I'm from Ubon Ratchathani Rajabhat University. I have worked there for almost 14 years. My bachelor and my master were in English, just English. My subject that I'm responsible for in the university, it's fundamental course for non-English major that who always enroll in my class. So the linguistic or teaching method that I found in your lecture, it will be useful for my future class, because I don't have any background much in linguistics. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next one.
Yes, teacher. My name is, let me introduce myself. My name is Sumo Ang. I'm from Mandalay in Myanmar. I'm a lecturer at Yadanabo University. So I've got 2 academics degrees, such as BA Honors and MA English. So we need, it is very linguistics, teaching linguistics is very important for both teachers and students. For teachers, it helps teachers to help to have a good command of English and to learn language components. For students, they need to learn so they can apply this knowledge in their real situation, and they can and then they have a good they are able to use language for communication efficiently, both in oral and written context. I have been teaching for over a decade. So, yes, teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
Next one.
Yes. My name is Patana Sudalijan. I graduate a bachelor degree majoring in English, and master degree I graduated from Kasetsat University, majoring in English for specific purpose. And after I graduate bachelor degree, I work as the import company for 1 year, and then I moved to Rajabhat, Rajabhat University, and I've been a lecturer for business English department for 13 years, and I teach reading and writing business English and general English for others majors like Ajahn Wanchana. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And next one.
Okay. Good morning, professors. My name is Tatya Thanonram.
Okay, I have to.
Okay, sorry. Sorry again, please. My name is Tatya Thanonram, and I am an business English lecturer at Buriram University. I've been teaching English for 2 years, and for my opinion about the necessity of linguistic knowledge of for being a good teacher, I think if I teach in the English major or business English major, I think it's necessary for them to know about the linguistics. But in my experience, or in my for my experience, I teach in the general English with the non-native or non-English major. So I think it's not necessary for them. We just teach them how to use English in daily life or can communicate in the real situations. Yeah, thank you.
And so you have studied English for specific purposes. So I'd like to know some of the module names under this course. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, you have planned English for specific course.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I'd like to know some of the modules under your study?
I have learned English for mass media, English for what else? I can't remember because I already graduated for like 10 years ago.
Yes, you forgot.
Yes.
Never mind.
Yeah, but I have learned some of the linguistically, sociolinguistic and yeah, some kind of linguistic, but not in deep. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I see. So next one.
Yeah. For Chinese PhD student, please.
Yeah, and my name is Wang Yili. I got my bachelor degree in 2003, so many years. Yeah, and after graduation, I just worked in the Tsinghua University in the north of China. And 10 years later, I just study further and in Dalian University. And my major is foreign linguistics and applied linguistics. And I just graduated from, I got my master degree in 2013, and almost 10 years. And now I think that I should move on to study furthermore. And so I just apply for study here. Okay, that's all.
Thank you. So how many students are left?
I think it's 2 left. But excuse me, ma'am, shall we have a break before we start the next part?
Yes,
Just
yes.
about 15 minutes, please.
Yes.
And we will come back.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ka.
Thank you. Thank you so much. See you.
Yeah, so we have a 15-minute break and then we will come back. Enjoy your fresh refreshment. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the webinar, continuing on Professor Ni Ni Hlaing session. Everybody's here. Okay, I hope we are already ready to start again for the second part of the first section. And so where is our guest speaker?
She is coming.
Okay.
Me.
So we wait for our professor for a while. And we will continue our lecture presentation by Professor Ni Ni Hlaing.
All right, while we are waiting for Professor Ni Ni Hlaing, right? So I have to inform you about the information in the afternoon section. We're going to start at 2 p.m. The special lecture from India is Professor Dr. Mathuri Shida Kodale. Her topic is linguistics leading to TEFL, TESOL, and ELT, the theory and practice to research. So for those who are interested to join us, not just only the participants in this Zoom, you can invite for those who want to join us on this topic, because it's very interesting about linguistics for the experts from India who want to give us a special lecture on that one. after the morning section or after the lecture of Professor Ni Ni Hlaing, right? You can either type your questions in the chat box message, or you can feel free to turn on the microphone to ask her directly.
Yes, additional from Ajahn Wanchana, our participants can share or discuss any idea would be appreciated.
Okay, now maybe Professor Ni Ni Hlaing, right? She's ready for the next part of the lecture. Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest speaker to continue the presentation or lecture again.
Thank you. Welcome back to my lecture. So this is my part 3 of presentation, or last part of my presentation. So this is a brief discussion section on necessity of linguistic knowledge for being a good teacher and of teaching linguistics in universities. So during the discussion section, I'd like to allow every student the chance to speak. And I'd like to listen to your idea or overview on my lecture or based on your own experiences. So during the discussion section, I'd like to have your thinking, your learning, your understanding, and your literary appreciation. So whether the information is right or wrong, so I'd like all of you to stimulate critical thinking. And this is the challenge, to think more deeply and to articulate your ideas more clearly. So let me start the section. These are the discussion questions I have prepared for you. So these questions have been prepared based on my lecture, and all these questions have been discussed by all of you PhD students. So each and everybody wants to participate. So this is the challenge, to think more deeply and to articulate your ideas more clearly. So let me start with the first question. The first main question is, what is linguistics and why we study it? So based on my lecture mentioned earlier this morning, so linguistics is the scientific study of language, and its focus is the systematic investigation of the properties of particular languages, as well as the characteristics of language in general. So there are 2 sub-questions under the main question number 1. So the first one is, what are the purposes of language? So you can discuss your own ideas regarding it. And then the second sub-question is, how do linguists study language? So you can discuss your own idea or based on my lecture, so you can discuss freely. Okay, so right. You can start with whom?
Let me try, Professor, again.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay. For me, in my opinion, for the purposes of language, for us, as we are Thai people, that we study English as a foreign language right now. So I think when we learn language, we can imitate or copy their sounds and how to pronounce the sound and have to get the meaning of the words. So maybe it's called phonetics and semantic together or mixed together, right? Yes, of course, we have to study about the sound, the word, the meaning. That's yeah, for a primarily level, I think.
Thank you. Thank you for your discussion. It's very good.
Thank you.
How many students are there in our section?
Actually, we had two types of students. First is like a lecture. We have to attend lectures, and another kind of student are like research student. Yeah, but they
yes.
can join us. I'm not sure that they are here. Yes, Ajahn Onsiri, right? And Ajahn Parishad ka. Are you still with us? Please turn on the microphone, please, Ajahn Onsiri. Thank you.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
That's
My
okay.
name is Ajahn Onsiri, right? I would like to answer the first one, right? What are the aim of the language, right? For the basics of using the language, right? We use this like to share about our thoughts, right? But we shouldn't aim at the basic what can I try? The purpose of language should aim at only like the sense of speaking out. Ajahn, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Ajahn. Okay, sorry, Sumonang. Please. Okay, you please.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Sumonang.
Yes.
Yes.
As far as the first question is concerned, so it has two purposes. The first one is we can transfer our knowledge or transfer our information to each other. And the second one is to facilitate our communication, to have a good relationship with each other. So for the second question, the language, we study language from a variety of perspectives. It includes the study of language, phonetics, and phonology. And the second one is word formation process, morphology, so how to form the words. And the third one is grammar, syntax, how to make the structure and how to use language in the language components, how to learn the language language components. And the last one is meaning, semantics. So that's why in this way, linguists study language. Thank you. Teacher.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good.
Yes, Professor. For me, for the first question, the purposes of language, I think the language is aimed to communicate from L1 to L2 in order to make them can understand each other for In the cases, right, this is a point for me. And how do linguists study language? I think the linguists can divide a language in many parts, from the smallest one to the biggest one, according to the picture on your right hand, right? Start from phonetics to discourse. The smallest thing is phonetics, and the biggest one is discourse. Thank you.
Thank you. Marvelous.
Okay, I want to have a try. And for the first question, I think that the purpose of language is the most important one, just to communicate with others. And I think that language is just like a bridge, and then we can communicate by using the foreign language. And for example, now maybe English is just maybe an international language, and just like us, I'm Chinese, and I think that most of my teachers and students are Thailand, and I think that we can exchange our ideas by using the English and not Chinese and Thailand. And I think it's just a bridge to communicate. And then I think that by learning the foreign language, and we can also just to become knowledgeable, to learn the literature and all many things of other countries. And I think that it is important for us to learn a foreign language. And for the second question, how do linguistics study language? And I think that linguists maybe can learn the language more efficiently than our ordinary people, and maybe they have more theories to direct them to learn a language more efficiently. Okay, that's more understanding about this question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your understanding. Yes. Next one.
Yes. Okay, I will answer the first question. What are the purpose of the language? And I understand so far, we use the language to communicate with the others. So that's why we have to learn or study other language to communicate with others. So we can have like cross-cultural communications. So yeah, that's the main point, or the purpose of the language. And the next question is, how do linguists study language? I think linguists study the characteristic of the language in order to understand more about the system of the language, like phonetics, syntax, semantics. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And next one.
Excuse me, Professor Ni Ni Hlaing.
Yes.
Is it possible for us to let this chance for another, not just candidates in the Zoom, right? I invite some of teachers from my university who is in the Zoom right now, and he is an expert in linguistics in my workplace.
Yes.
So I need he says something that he want to. May I invite Ajahn Paritep Khotkam? Could you say something, because you teach linguistics and you have knowledge in this field. Please, are you with us, Ajahn Paritep?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Welcome.
You need my camera on.
Yeah, it's clearly.
All right. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yes. To me, what are the purposes of language? I think to simply put it, language is a way to get the message across. You know, like I had a not very good experience in communicating in the United States. One day I was at a bus stop and a gentleman asked me about something. And I suppose that had to be something about the bus, right? The route of the bus. With the low voice roaring in his throat, I couldn't really make out what he was trying to say. And that didn't make my day because I couldn't understand English while in an English speaking country. You know what I mean? So I quit, you know, I quit the communication, and then he said, never mind. So that was the failure in using the language in communication. So, I mean, that is the purpose of language. You know, you try to get the message across. Suppose if there are two speakers, one is a Turkish speaking person, and one is a Thai, and both don't speak English, you know, and when they try to get the message across, they don't know how. Sometimes they need to, you know, to use the non-verbal language, but that isn't completely enough for the message to be gotten across, you know. So I think that is the first, the main point of language. If that makes sense. And for the second one, how do linguists study language? As a mild linguist, I think that everyone here learned languages by observing and by learning the structure, pretty much. For example, when I was younger, I used to wonder if I can say this in English, like I want him going there instead of I want him to go there. I have some questions or stuff like that. But then when you are exposed to materials, you see and you observe the structure that, oh, this is not allowed in this as a collocation of the word want, you know, and then you learn it by observing the system of language, because language has to have system, otherwise the speakers won't understand one another, right? So I think there is some type of system there in languages, and we much observe the system and what you say, imitates the system of a particular language. I think that is my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your excellent discussion. So now, let me move on to the second question. What is linguistics in language teaching? So here, linguistics is the scientific study of language. As the scientific study, linguistics can be applied in language teaching. So some branches of linguistics discuss some aspects of a language, such as phonemes, morphemes, words, meanings, and language in relation to sociocultural and psychological perspectives. Here, my sub-question is, how many major branches of linguistics are there? So according to your experience, so you can say some branches of linguistics. Okay. I want to listen from you. How many major branches of linguistics are there?
Okay, let me try, Professor.
Yes, welcome.
For the branches of linguistics, according to your slide,
Yes.
yeah, there are 6 branches of linguistics
This
that
is a kind of
for the
clue for
first
you.
one, yeah, phonetics is the study about the sound and how to pronounce that, phonetics. And for phonology, it's like the words which they are formed of can be divided, how to call that, to separate the words. That is the component of the words for phonology. And the morphology is like how to separate each word. For example, if we use the unhappy, so we can have a prefix and the root word that I understand. Like, I'm not sure that I'm right or wrong. And
Carry on.
what about syntax? It's like a study of a sentence structure. And for semantics is the meaning of the words, each word in English language. And for the pragmatic is the study of how to convey the meaning in various contexts. For like we have a direct can call descriptive meaning and connotative meaning, something like this. That's all for my discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good.
Professor, can we count this course to be one of branches of the linguistic that you list in the slide, based on the diagram from the previous one that I saw that?
Yes.
Because this course is kind of the branches that's focused on the text. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So according to my knowledge, there are some major branches of linguistics we can study. So they are psycholinguistics, sociolinguistics, comparative linguistics, computational linguistics, and applied linguistics. So this is my response to this answer. Thank you. And next question. Who was the main contributor to the linguistic period? The answer is Noam Chomsky, who is known as the father of modern linguistics. So there are 3 sub-questions for you. What are the 3 theories of Chomsky, or what are the linguistic theories of Chomsky proposed by Chomsky? And the second sub-question, how can teachers use Chomsky's theory in their language classroom? And the third one, how does Chomsky's theory support language development? So as a clue, Chomsky's theories of grammar and language are often referred to as generative, transformational, or transformational generative, as I have presented in my lecture. So in a mathematical sense, generative simply means formally explicit. So in the case of language, however, the meaning of the term typically also includes the notion of productivity. And regarding the second sub-question, how can teachers use Chomsky's theory in the language classrooms? According to Chomsky, the goal in language teaching is to help cultivate growth of the learners and to help the students become interested in learning. So he also states that students typically come in interested, and the process of education is a way of driving that defect out of their minds. And now we have come to the third sub-question. How does Chomsky's theory support language development? So how does Chomsky's theory support language development? Here, I'd like to listen from you. Some lines for discussion based on your own idea. How does Chomsky's theory support language development? I invite one more student.
Professor, I just want to have a try.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and how does Chomsky's theory support language development? And Chomsky's generative transformational grammar, and he just think that maybe each one of us, when we were born, we have the ability, we have the competence to learn the language, and it is just fixed in our brain.
Yes.
And yeah, and no matter for learning our native language and for learning foreign language, and Chomsky just think that we have the ability, we can see that maybe we have the organ in our bodies to learn the language, and I think that it just maybe give us the confidence to learn. Maybe neither both our native language and the foreign language. And I think maybe for some students, and they just have the ability to learn the foreign language. And it just maybe about it just not only maybe just about the generative transformation grammar, and I think it is also very important for language learners, and it is just about their self motivation, the interest, the motivation, and also maybe the generative transformational grammar, and I think they can just direct us to learn foreign language. Okay, that's my opinion.
Thank you for your good thinking. So Chomsky states that children must have an inborn faculty for language acquisition. So as you have mentioned earlier in your discussion. So according to his theory, the process is biologically determined. That is, the human species has evolved a brain whose neural circuits contain linguistic information at birth. So this is the response. Thank you. Thank you for your discussion based on your own experience. So move to question number 4. So what is the contribution of Noam Chomsky in linguistics? So Noam Chomsky's linguistics research in the 1950s aimed to understand the tools and means through which children acquire language. So he proposed a system of principles and parameters that suggested a child's innate understanding of syntax and semantics. So there are two sub-questions for you. What is the greatest contribution of Noam Chomsky? What are the main points in Chomsky's theory? What is the greatest contribution to Noam Chomsky? It is very clear that the contribution will go to psychology, in the field of psychology. So Chomsky is best known for his influence on linguistics, specifically the development of transformational grammar. Chomsky believed that formal grammar was directly responsible for a person's ability to understand and interpret mere utterances. For the second sub-question, what are the main points in Chomsky's theory? So I understand that, my understanding is that he started his research into language in the 1960s. And he suggests that children are born with an innate ability to learn languages. So the key principles of Chomsky's model of language acquisition is that everyone is born with the capacity to develop and learn any language. Okay, thank you for your discussion. So let me move to question number 5. What are the contributions of linguistics? Linguistics found its ways into sociology, anthropology, language arts, foreign language learning and teaching. English as a second language, translation and interpretation, literacy, and the development of language policy in countries around the world. So my question is, what linguistics theory do you think that might have influenced the development of methods of language teaching? For this question, we have to think about something like that. So until now, the theories of linguistics have mainly experienced 3 stages, as I have mentioned in my lecture. So traditional grammar, structuralism, and functionalism. So they are closely related to each other and generated the change of language teaching theories. Okay, so I'd like to listen from you, one of the PhD scholars. How do you think? What linguistics theory do you think that might have influenced the development of methods of language teaching? Maybe you did not know the exact linguistics theory, so you can discuss based on your own experience relating to that idea.
Yes, Professor, let me say something.
Yes.
For this question, in my opinion, I would choose traditional grammar based on my experience that I always teach non-English major in the general subject. So I found that they lack of knowledge of English at all, right? Even though some vocabulary which is necessary for them, but the lack of this. So I think they need someone, I mean teacher, to instruct them, to direct them to do this kind of the theory. I think it can be used in further for planning the way of teaching them, or other kind of student who always enroll in the course. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for articulating your ideas more clearly. Thank you. And next question. What are the contributions of linguistics to language teaching? So linguistics help teachers convey the origins of words and languages, their historical applications, and their modern day relevance. So this approach to teaching language helps students gain a better, more in-depth understanding of their assignments and work product expectations. So my sub-question is, what are the three different approaches to linguistics, or what are the different approaches to linguistics? How do you think? So actually, the teaching language helps students gain a better, more in-depth understanding of their assignments and work product expectations. So based on what different approaches to linguistics? How do you think? I'd like to invite one more student.
Let me try.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, the three approaches may be pragmatic, is the study of language in communication, and the second one is semantics, study of meaning in sentences, and the third one is phonetics, study of reduction of sounds. I think like that, teacher.
Yes, yes. Thank you. And can you give an example for using such kind of approaches in your language classroom?
Yes, teacher. Phonetics, it is important for us. It's important for us. It is used. Everyone can use. So they need to pronounce precisely, correctly. That's why they need to learn phonetics. So then the second one is semantics. So if we don't know the meaning, so we can't communicate. So what they want to say. So I think semantic is yes. Another one is pragmatic. Pragmatic. So it focuses on language and communication. So it can improve our communication. Linguistic. In other words, linguistic is the study of language. That's why I think pragmatic is a part of approach of to linguistics.
Thank you. So you mean that by doing such kind of different approaches of linguistics in the language classroom, the students may have in-depth understanding of their assignments and they may work product expectations. Thank you. Thank you for your discussion.
Thank you, teacher.
Question number 7, what is the role of linguistics in language? So linguistics is concerned with the nature of language and communication. So indeed, both with the study of particular language and the search for general properties common to all languages or large group of languages. So my sub question is, how do we use linguistics in our daily lives? Very simple. So you use the language in your daily life. Okay, here my question is, how do we use linguistics in our daily life?
Okay, Professor, I just want to have a try.
Yes, yes.
And how do we use linguistics in our daily lives? And for example, in the English class, and maybe we just use a different teaching method for different students because the students' level are just different. And
Yes.
we can, and we can just use different, we can see that method to direct our teaching. And for example, for those students whose English are very poor, and maybe we just use some basic teaching method to teach them to teach their English. And for those students whose English is better or excellent, we can use some maybe difficult. We can teach some difficult content, and we can see that the teaching content and the teaching method we choose to teach our students just depend on the students on their English levels. Okay, that's my opinion. Thank you.
Very good, very good. Thank you for your discussion. And the next question. Why is it important for teachers to know about linguistic and literacy development? So here, teaching and learning through an additional language encourages understanding between cultures, improves students' cognitive ability, and prepares them for life beyond school or beyond universities. So there are 2 more sub-questions. What are branches of linguistics? And what are the contribution of linguistics to the society? How do you understand? So invite one more, please. The picture shows the clues for you.
Excuse me, can I try
Yes.
to answer the first question, right? What are the branches of linguistics, right? I have found that there are 6 ones. The first one is like socio-linguistics. The second
Yes.
one is applied linguistics. The third one is computational linguistics. And the fourth is psycholinguistics. The fifth is statistics. And the sixth is historical linguistics. And the last one, exactly, I found 7 branches, right? The last one is comparative linguistics. There are 7 ones.
Yes. So what about the next sub-question? Contribution of linguistics to the society.
Okay. Let's I file first, Ajahn. I think the greatest contribution of linguistics to our society is that we can know about the basics of our communication, right? Because we have know like a root words, we know like a prefix and suffix, things like that. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So linguistics helps us understand our world. So apart from simply understanding the intricacies of world languages, the knowledge can be applied to improving communication between people, contributing to translation activities, and assisting in literacy efforts and treating speech disorders. So these are the contributions of linguistics to the society. Thank you. And question number 9. What is Aristotle's contribution to linguistics? So the study of language has already had 2 kinds of practitioners, the practical and the theoretical linguists. Practical and theoretical linguists. So Aristotle was no doubt the first theoretical linguist, in addition to being the first is in many other subjects, but he also contributed essentially to the development of practical linguistics. So the questions are, what is applied linguistics with examples? And the second one, what is the most important contribution of applied linguistics? And the next one, how can applied linguistics help to solve problems in the classroom? I'd like to invite 3 more students for each question. How do you understand about applied linguistics? So by giving an example, you can discuss. Okay, applied linguistics is the multidisciplinary field focuses on various disciplines such as psychology, educational research, sociology, anthropology, ethnography, pedagogy, political science, communication and media studies, and economics. So this is the applied linguistics definition and its examples. And the second question, what is the most important contribution of applied linguistics? So study applied linguistics is very useful for all sorts of employment, as it gives you an understanding of many aspects of human communication. So it is particularly useful for communicating in the workplace and applying problem solving and analytical skills across many areas. So here in this classroom, some of the students have studied about business English. And so you can study the contribution of applied linguistics in your business English lectures. Since the study applied linguistics is useful for all sorts of employment. And the last question is, how can applied linguistics help to solve problems in the classroom? So applied linguistics has been used to solve most of the practical problems in language teaching to study of language learners. So it collaborates with other disciplines such as linguistics, education, psychology, and the like in its research to find the solutions to language-related real-life problems. So by studying applied linguistics, the teachers can help solving problems in their language classrooms. research question 10. Who is called the father of linguistics? So here, Ferdinand de Saussure, born in 1857 and died in 1913, is acknowledged as the founder of modern linguistics and semiology, and as having laid the groundwork for structuralism and post-structuralism. So the Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure is widely acknowledged as the key figure in this refocusing of interest and as the founding father of the modern linguistics. Saussure began his career in the Indo-European historical comparative tradition, within which he made a seminal contributions, many contributions through seminars. And next question, number 11, what are the types of linguistics? So as I have given you as clue of the answer, so there are many types of linguistics. So they are phonology, which is the sounds in a speech in cognitive terms. And the second one is phonetics. Phonetics is the study of sounds in a speech in physical terms. And syntax, syntax is the study of formation and structure of sentences. And semantics, it is a study of meanings. And morphology, the study of the formation of words. And pragmatics, it was the study of the use of language or languages. Here, the last question. How will a teacher use the structural approach in the teaching of English? The question has been asked to you based on my lecture. So through structural approach, we can learn English for any other language fluently. So structural approach teaches to learn sentences in a systematic manner, which involves the structure, sequencing and pattern arrangement of the words to make a proper and complete sentences with meaning. So what is structuralism in ELT? How do you understand? So I'd like to listen your ideas on this sub-question, structuralism in ELT. Who will be the volunteer? First one. I have given you some clues regarding structuralism in language teaching. So you can discuss based on these points. Who wants to attempt it?
Okay, let me try.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So what is the structuralism ELT? What I understand is the study of the structure of the sentence, and also understand the grammatical structure to make the sentence is correctly. And that's true. Yes, and also study the meaning of the context, which is relationship among the parts that take place. Yeah. Thank
Yes.
you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, can I support her? But according to her answer, those
Yes.
she just talked.
Yes. You can
I-
add some more points.
Yes, but one thing I think those the thing that we know about constructuralism in ELT still focus on out of English skills, like listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So
So-
you can add one more point.
Mhm.
And there's some more points to be added. Who wants to try?
Let me share.
Yes.
In my opinion, the structuralism of ELT, for me, I think whatever you are from any kind of field, so they can learn about language by using the four main skills as well: listening, speaking, reading, and writing, by using and understanding about the grammatical structure. Yeah, that I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So you can add one more point.
So let me try.
Yes. Welcome.
Tomorrow we are thinking constructuralism enable us to have cognition, because they have to learn grammatical structure, sentence structures. It can give us cognition. So, and another point is it gives us culture and experiences, because they have to learn the context, where the relationship between among the parts of the place that they can learn cultures and experiences from other countries.
Thank you. Thank you. So who wants to try about it? Yeah, as far as I understand, structuralism in linguistics asserts the idea that all of the parts of learning English are interwoven. So one of you has mentioned such fact, and because they are all interrelated, so they don't have the same meaning when in isolation. So in order for different parts of the English language to make sense, they need to be working together. So thank you. So I have no more questions. So here, in conclusion, it's time to wish all of you. So my dear students, please try to learn from every little thing, and no one will be wiser than you. So your presentation, your efforts, your hard work, and your determination decides your success, nothing else. So please help yourself. Others will come forward to help you as well. Best wishes to you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ka, for Professor Ni Ni Hlaing, for your great presentation for this morning session. So I'd like to conclusion about the morning session first from Professor Ni Ni, right? We could get the idea that teachers and lecturers, wherever they are from, which school level, we can find the effective ways to teach language with linguistic features that can